All right, what's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, July 30th. President Joe Biden attacks the Supreme Court and offers some radical changes because he did not get his way. Meta and Google have now engaged in some election interference. The Olympic opening ceremony was a tribute to a satanic version of the Last Supper. And the Bongino Report's own Matt Palumbo joins me to discuss it all. I'm Alec Lace. This is The Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to The Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored, as always, to be here with you guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast live here on Rumble, please get down there, hit the like button, share the broadcast, and don't forget to follow the channel here on Rumble. I can't say thank you enough for all of your support, and thank you for continuing to tune into the broadcasts here, especially on Rumble. So get involved in that live chat. If you missed out last week, I had two great guests on the podcast. I had actor Dean Cain join me here on the podcast. He shared some of his experience at the RNC convention, and we talked shop about so many other topics. Also, Thursday, I had Darren Beatty on the podcast, who brings such a brilliant analysis that whatever he is dissecting, he actually was just on Rumble on here last night with Donald Trump Jr. So if you missed out on my episode with Darren Beatty, please go back and check it out. And if you missed him on Jr.'s podcast yesterday on Triggered, go check that out as well. Darren Beatty always bringing the fire. And today, the Dan Bongino Report, their fact checker, also the author of book Fact Checking the Fact Checkers, and so many others, Matt Palumbo, is going to be here with me. He was actually one of the guys, he was the guy sitting to my right on the stage during the Fox segment where I said the infamous words about Kamala Harris, which now have gone viral. So we'll talk about more of that in just a few minutes. But let me get into somewhat of the breaking news that we've seen here. Obviously, Venezuela is now almost in a full collapse. They've cheated in their elections. Maduro has now claimed victory down there. It looks like it's going to turn into some kind of civil war. The unrest is crazy. But here's the thing that we can connect this to. Maduro is somebody who made changes to their Supreme Court back in 2017. Prior to him doing that, we had Hugo Chavez, who made changes to their Supreme Court back when Venezuela went from being one of the wealthiest countries in the hemisphere to then cooking their own zoo animals, right? After they voted their way into socialism. And again, you're going to have to shoot your way out of that. But now, how does that ring true here? Well, President Joe Biden wants to change our Supreme Court. And why does he want to do it? The only reason he wants to do it is because he didn't get his way. Let's be honest about it. So what kind of changes does he want to make? He wants to make the changes that there will be no immunity for crimes a former president committed in office. Now, why in the world would Joe want to do that? It's because that is what has gotten in the way of him throwing Donald Trump, his opposition, behind bars. They ruled that he has the presidential immunity, which has thrown these cases out of the way and have gotten in the way of Joe Biden putting his opposition behind bars, which is now not his opposition anymore because Joe Biden was kicked and tossed to the curb because the guy who got 81 million votes, more than any other president in history, is now not good enough or electable enough to even run for a second term. So they booted Joe out of the way. They installed Kamala Harris as the running partner here, or the actual nominee, and that's what it's going to be. Remember, nobody in this country voted for Kamala Harris to be the representative of the Democrat Party. Not one vote was cast for Kamala Harris. Zero. She won no delegates. She didn't win anything in a primary. And we know 4 years ago, she was dead last in the voting for the primary. She didn't even make the final cut to get into the primaries. So nobody likes Kamala Harris. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. The Democrats, they're the ones that decided who is going to be your nominee. You didn't get a stake in the race. And that's all for the sake of democracy. All right, so we know why he wants the no immunity clause to be in there, because it got in the way of them throwing their opposition in prison. Then he wants term limits for Supreme Court justices. The guy that spent his entire life, 50 years plus, in politics is asking for term limits, when we know damn well nobody in Congress has term limits. He's not asking for Congress to get term limits. He's asking for the Supreme Court. Well, why is that? Because Donald Trump appointed 3 young Supreme Court justices to the court that are going to be there, and they're going to be a thorn in the side of the Democrats for years to come. And also, he wants the term limits because they would love nothing more than to get Clarence Thomas the hell out of the Supreme Court. They hate that guy. As much as the left tells you they love black people and they care about people of color, they have said the most nastiest, racist, disgusting things you've ever heard about who they call Uncle Tom, Clarence Thomas. They call him Uncle Thomas. And they get away with it because it's okay, because he's a conservative guy who sticks up for the Constitution. So that's why he wants the term limits. Then he wants a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. Now, I want to, sometimes when I don't have the best analysis, I got to review somebody that I read that had a far better one than I could come up with about all of this. And this is a statement from Leonard Leo from the Federalist. He put this out. I'm going to read this to you. I'll put it up by me because I thought it was very, very brilliant here. No conservative justice has made any decision in any big case that surprised anyone. So let's stop pretending this is about undue influence. It's about Democrats destroying a court they don't agree with. If President Biden and the Democrats were truly serious about ethics reform, then they would ban all gifts and hospitality of any kind for any public official in any branch of government, starting with Congress, where the real corruption is. They would close all the loopholes that allow members to travel on private jets to fancy hotels and restaurants. With respect to judges, they would include the things where influence peddling is most present and dangerous, and that's when the liberal justices rub shoulders with influencers at places like law schools, bar associations, progressive think tanks, and their conferences, and other groups and events funded by left-wing billionaires, where they support real vested interests in the work of the court. Let me be clear. If the Democrats want to adopt an across-the-board ethics ban for all branches, I'm in favor of that. No jets, no meals, no speaking honorariums, no gifts for anyone, from anyone, for any reason, in any branch, starting with Congress. Until they support that, let's be honest about what this is. A campaign to destroy a court they disagree with. I mean, that's a mic drop statement right there from Leonard Leo. And this is true. This is the reason why they are attacking, or why the Biden administration, because Harris is the same, why they are attacking the Supreme Court. They're going after it because they didn't get their way. They lost their Roe v. Wade. Joe Biden was talking about this last night when he went live. He was mumbling, bumbling, and stumbling his way through another teleprompter speech where he talked about Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. Well, it was thrown out unconstitutionally, and now it went back to the states where it belongs. They're not happy with that. They want to kill as many babies as possible, especially like Kamala Harris wants to do. She wants to kill them right up to the moment of birth. So they're so upset and pissed off that they lost that this is what their result is. They're trying to change the court because it went against what their wishes were. And it doesn't work that way. And people try fighting back. Oh, the GOP did this when they blocked Merrick Garland from getting on the court when Obama was the president. No, that's the way it works. They had control of the other branch of government, and they stopped it. There was nothing unconstitutional about that. Then they say, oh, Donald Trump slammed in Amy Coney Barrett. He didn't slam her in. He put her in. He was the president of the United States. He was the president until January. He put her in on the court. They don't like it, so they're crying about it, melting down about it the way that they do. And so they're attacking the Supreme Court to try, and damn well they would do it if they could do it tomorrow. They would pack the Supreme Court. They would do it tomorrow. Now, as I said, Maduro is somebody who made changes to the Supreme Court to fit his way of governing, right? His dictatorship way of governing. And the same thing, who else made changes to the court, to their Supreme Court? Hitler did. So should we start making the comparisons between Biden and Hitler now because both of them wanted to change the Supreme Court fundamentally? Do we start making those comparisons now? All right, so the Supreme Court is going to stay the way it is, and Joe Biden can go beat feet on that. But Kamala Harris, this is what you're going to get, and they're going to try to slam this thing through. God forbid they get the House and the Senate. We are going to lose this country if they get control of the whole ship. And what are we facing now? How do you get your information? Google and Meta, They're now engaging in what I would call election interference, okay? Here's some of the pictures. I'll put them up. You guys have probably seen this stuff. A lot of it went viral, especially on X. I know it did. When you put in, and now there was some changes made to this, but when you put in Donald Trump and you enter, the results that you get are all news stories about Kamala Harris. You don't get any stories about Donald Trump. When you put in J.D. Vance and you go for the search results, it's all negative stories about J.D. Vance. When you type in assassination attempt on Donald Trump, you don't get any results. It doesn't come up in the autofill, right? So you could put in assassination attempt of DON and nothing shows up. Donald Duck shows up, Donald Reagan shows up, not Donald Trump in the autofill. So they're trying to censor to their best of their ability the attempt of the assassination on Donald Trump because Meta, now they admitted to what they did. They were blocking the picture, the infamous picture here of Trump triumphantly raising his hand after being shot. They tried to censor this on Facebook. This was what you got. And now they came out and said that, it was a mistake. This was an error on our end. So they admitted to it because it went viral on X. Elon posted about it. And so now Facebook anteed up or fessed up and said, this was a mistake on it. Notice how none of the mistakes go to censoring anything from the left. There's never a mistake that censors Kamala Harris's speech or anything that she's done. They don't censor that. The censorship by mistake always happens to go against Donald Trump. What a coincidence this is. Just like the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop. Wow, here we go. This was a mistake that we blurred out this picture. It wasn't a mistake. This stuff is being done on purpose. And we are in, as Alex Jones has famously said, we are in an information war. Where are you getting your information? Now, Mark Cuban has been fighting with Elon Musk or commenting, I don't know if Elon's really replied, saying that the private company can put whatever they want in their search results. Well, Google has the monopoly on this. Now, I don't know what the legality is of this, if they are legally allowed to alter their search results to fit their narrative. All I know is they have the monopoly because I never hear anybody say, why don't you Yahoo it? I don't hear everybody say, I'm not sure where that is. Why don't you Bing it? No, everybody says, why don't you Google it? Google is the default browser for everybody to use, and they're controlling the results that you see. They are controlling the information, and if they're doing it with simple things like this, what makes you think that anything you're reading on there from Google is actually true? You have to just take it and trust the sources that you're getting, and we willingly do that as a society. We willingly go with whatever is said when we Google something. We Google it, we get the answer, it's the Word of God. We've trusted these sources of information. Wikipedia is another one. How many people get their information from Wikipedia? Listen, I came under the gun, right? People now, because I went viral with that clip, people now are searching me. There's articles put out about my life, about my early childhood. All these stories are completely false. They have my wrong age. They have my wrong height. They have my wrong net worth. Everything that they've had is all wrong. But people are going to read it on the internet and believe it's real. So what is actually true anymore? Nobody knows, and that's why we're in this information war. So you Google something, you expect the results, you get them, and you trust them. It's almost like how this generation trusts Uber and Lyft, right? We used to tell kids years ago, like, hey, never get into a car with a stranger. Now, that's all you do is get into cars with strangers. You have these young, intoxicated young adults who trust so much the technology that you just get into the car with anybody. Oh, that's my Uber ride. Now, every once in a while, you get the stories where the girl got in the wrong car, a girl was abducted, somebody was murdered, somebody was raped. And because these are the things that are going to happen, because you're trusting it so much. And I'm telling you, just from driving a ton of Uber, the people will just get right in your car, not ask any questions, nothing. Drunk girls by themselves will walk right into your car and never even question it because they trust it so much. And it's the same way that now we trust these media sources, the way that we trust Google, the way that we trust Wikipedia, the way that we trust Facebook. We think these things are trustworthy sources. And so if you're not careful, you could easily be manipulated. We saw that during COVID-19. How many people were easily manipulated by all this bullshit that was put out about it? There's still people to this day that believe it. They're walking around. I just saw one yesterday outside without a mask, with a mask on. All right, so who do you trust? What sources? I'll give you a source that's trustworthy, the Bongino Report. That's one that I would trust, and that's one that I know a lot of you guys go to, maybe in the morning. I love to read it in the morning when I check. I like to check all the sources in the morning. Fox, Breitbart, I check CNN, I check the Bongino report. It's one of the tops that I always check to see what are the top headlines, right? Before I get on to X, see what's trending and all that other stuff. I will definitely throw in those sources to see what they're covering. And the Bongino report, their fact checker that they have is Matt Palumbo. Matt Palumbo, also the author of a book, Fact Checking the Fact Checkers and Others. He is the guy that happened to be sitting on my right when I was on Fox Business and made the comment that now went viral. And it started to die down just a scotch, and then CNN played it Friday morning, and the whole thing started all over again because more people were saying, I mean, this thing went on. It was on with TMZ. It was on The Breakfast Club. It was on everything. So even Matt had texted me. It was on in Australia. Right, CBS Australia or NBC Australia, one of them channels in Australia. They had it down there. They were covering it. So this thing went super viral. I'll play the CNN clip, and then I'm going to bring Matt onto the podcast here. But take a look. Here it was how they played it on CNN. Got where she is, and the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough. That was harsh.
She's saying that was tough, that was Alec Lace, that was harsh, because it is a reference to a certain sexual action, saying that that's what she is originally known for. What the hell?
It's disgusting, it's despicable, it's sexist, it's completely counterproductive, by the way. We've seen this leaning into racist attacks, misogynistic attacks against her. That does not work with the very suburban swing voters that you need to win an election.
Right away, all the misogynistic and racist. That's the go-to thing. Number one, it's a factual thing that I said. And number two, thousands, and I'm talking about thousands of women liked and positively commented on what I said. And also, thousands of people of color liked it and commented positively. Thousands of people of color, thousands of women. If that's the case, and what I said is truly misogynistic and truly racist, you wouldn't have one woman agree with me. Not one. And you would not have not one person of color agree with me. Zero. If what I said was truly racist and what I said was truly misogynistic, you wouldn't get one of them to agree with me and to like it. But you had thousands of them that agreed, of women and people of color. So the fact that it's a misogynist or racist thing is bullshit. But people have attacked everything about me, posted all kinds of stuff, which is fair game. I get it. This is the world we live in. I said something that made them melt into a little cheese sandwich. And so their first instinct is, oh, we're going to attack the guy because what he said was true and it struck a nerve right in the middle of your forehead. So what they had to do was melt down first, cry about it, and then attack. And that's what they did. So the emotions ran high. Now, as a byproduct of this, my friend Matt Palumbo here, I want to see what kind of slack he caught. It's the first chance I'll get to catch up with him now. I've been on Fox several times with Matt. Very well spoken, hammers the points home. Always a great guest whenever I get a chance to share the stage with him on Fox. So let me bring him on right now and get his take on how all this went down.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, let's do this. Joining me now, Matt Palumbo. Welcome to the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an eventful week. I know.
It has been. For me, especially, people went absolutely bonkers over the video, went viral, millions of views. And I know you caught a little slack on your end on there, trying to smother the smile. But how did it go for you?
I was really enjoying it. I added up I assume everyone watching you must know what we're talking about. I added up all the view counts on Twitter, and it was over, I think, 30 million people. And I mean, 99% of the comments were you, but there was 1% about how I was a smug asshole for trying my hardest, and I succeeded not laughing. I actually got a lot of compliments for that, of like, I did a good job holding it together. But I don't know. I upset a lot of people, and it was all the right people that it upset. So it's all these people who were cheering on Trump getting shot in the face, and then 2 weeks later, I'm supposed to care that you got offended by a factual comment. By the way, there was comments too that were along the lines of like, Kamala Harris should sue Alec Lace for sexism, like as if that's something you can sue for.
And what's interesting is they attacked me personally, posted pictures of my family. They came at me, but nobody was able to discredit what I actually said. I mean, Joe Biden himself called Kamala Harris a DEI hire. Yeah. I mean, that's well documented. It's not like I made that up. And Willie Brown admitted to advancing Kamala's career by appointing her to 2 positions worth $400,000 to jumpstart her career. So it wasn't like these are like things that people don't know about. It's just they didn't like the fact of how I said it. They didn't like the fact that it's true. And so they took it out on me personally is what happened.
Well, what they do this with affirmative action, but now DEI, where if you were to suggest that any one individual benefited from those policies, well, that's racist because you're saying they only got that way because of those policies. But in the same breath, if we were going to say, okay, well, let's abolish those policies, well, then the argument for them is, well, that's racist because it benefits those groups. So you can't win either way. It's heads I win, tails you lose.
Yep, you're right. And they created the DEI, and now they have to live by it. But now they turned it. So I know I mentioned it last week too. Jack Posobiec put a thing. If DEI is supposed to be such a good thing, why do they get so bent out of shape when you call somebody a DEI hire? Like, how do you win in that case?
Yeah, there was actually a survey I saw recently of affirmative action in colleges, and they were asking liberals, like, if it hurts Asians, if it's at the expense of Asians, do you still support it? And something like 2/3 turned against affirmative action of liberals when they're told it hurts Asians. If you only tell them it hurts white people, 2/3 of them are in favor of it. So it depends on the skin color that's being affected. They will oppose or support affirmative action, just depending on that.
Well, let me get into some of the stuff that they're doing right now, because currently Google and Meta, they're trying to erase the Trump assassination attempt from their Google search history. So when you put it in, and everyone was trying this, I don't know if it's been fixed, because I know Elon jumped on it and pointed it out, but Meta also is censoring the iconic picture taken by the Associated Press photographer of Trump raising his hand triumphantly there. And so it seems like you would have to consider it to be election interference, but it looks like these search engines are going into overdrive here to try to, protect the public from seeing the truth about what happened.
So it actually happened to me this week. I wrote an article for Dan Bongino's website. It had the iconic photo. And here's the thing. I got the photo from Getty Images. And their excuse for putting a fact check on it is, I guess there's a fake version of that photo, a doctored version, where the female Secret Service agent is smiling. And people were trying to claim, like, oh, there's something going on here. But I didn't use that photo. I used the iconic one. So what they do is they will use like a tangential fact check to go after you. You can. This has happened before, where I would point out a statistic, and it would be one that you have to sort of hedge it or add qualifiers to go, okay, here's the stat, but take into account X, Y, and Z. It's not as powerful, but it's still a good stat. They will take a fact check of the stat and then apply it to you, even though you included all the premises where you're clarifying certain things. So they will really just find any excuse. I mean, there was a Dan Bongino podcast where he posted a link to the show on his Facebook, and then in the show, he had show notes. And I guess PolitiFact wanted to censor the podcast episode, so they found some article Dan recommended and then attached a fact check to the podcast, because it had the podcast had linked to another article. So they will literally do anything. And the irony is this, it was like a week after Zuckerberg said it was the most badass thing he ever saw. So clearly he doesn't actually believe that.
And they have a lot of power to do this too. And the other thing too is when you Google Donald Trump, the first things that I think Charlie Kirk, I think, posted this. I forget who brought my attention to it, but when you just Google Donald Trump, the search results, the first ones you see, I think it was Dave Rubin that actually reported it, that I saw it. When you just Google Donald Trump, the first things that come up are news articles about Kamala Harris.
Yep.
So that's what you get immediately. So they're shoving that in your face. Of course, when you Google Kamala Harris, you get Kamala Harris information. But that's not the case when you Google Donald Trump, just his name.
Yeah, I haven't checked this one myself, but I read that if you type in assassination, the first result that comes up is not Donald Trump. It's like some random one. And then the recommended are not there too. Now, to be fair, if you Google Trump assassination, the news articles do show up, but it doesn't autofill for you.
That's what it is, right? Yeah, the autofill.
Yeah. And there have been, actually, I think it was in my last book, Fact Checking the Fact Checkers. They will throttle certain search results. So if you're typing in, I mean, listen, in politics, it's not always cut and dry. There are some things that are true in certain contexts and not true in others. So if you type in things where it could go either way, the first pages get stacked with the liberal version of the claim, and then the conservative one is a few pages back where it's, okay, and here's how you can look at the same data a different way. That's usually the right way. But they've known for doing that. There was a Media Research Center study that it was like hundreds of millions of views on damning Biden stories, like the laptop that just never got seen because of that. And they even claimed that something like 1 in 5 votes for Biden could have been turned if they knew about the laptop. And now I think that's might be a bit sensationalist, but if it was 1% of the vote, it would be enough. So yeah.
And just to continue on this, they had the satanic opening of the Olympics, and my account got suspended on Twitter for sharing the video of the satanic image of them with the Last Supper. So it got suspended, and I had to read their copyright thing. I got hit, I guess, with a copyright infringement. It was what it was, and they did this to all accounts that were sharing the video. They're essentially trying to scrub that video. Even the Olympics official account has erased it from their YouTube channel. So when you go to YouTube, it just says video not available. So obviously they're not proud of what this thing was all about. So, but they're trying to censor the world from seeing their Satanism that took place at the opening ceremony.
Well, it shows that our pushback is working. We've had successes with Bud Light, with John Deere. I think we have the latest one, Tractor Supply Company. And, you know, it may, to a casual observer or a liberal might say, like, hey, these are just tiny little things. Like when you isolate any one thing, you can say, like, hey, Bud Light, it was just one advertisement. Who cares? John Deere, whatever, it's just PR stuff. But the left strategy is one of incrementalism. You just do little things here, like, the critical race theory, it's just getting rid of racism. Okay, it's just about tolerance. It's just about X, Y, and Z. And then you stack these things together for 10 years, and then all of a sudden you're going, why is everything gay? You know, like to some extent, like, why does everything have to be gay? And it's because you have these little things you stack together. And you know, some conservatives were saying, you know, they never tried this with Muslims. And obviously, I would never say we should, you know, wage jihad against these people. But you know, that sort of extreme pushback, which admittedly involves violence, does work. Now, we don't want to do that, but costing them money, making it so no one watches their network, and they respond to incentives.
Well, I know that there was one that did the cartoon about the Prophet Muhammad, and then they bombed the whole building the following day, the newspaper. I mean, they just bombed the whole building. Yeah,
it was Charlie Hebdo. I think Al Qaeda did that, and yeah, you don't see very many people criticizing Islam. I mean, now obviously, you know, we'd rather live in a world where you can and not, you know, it would be the boycott version of it. But you know, we can stop this stuff. I mean, if they had to purge their entire social media presence of it, certainly made a difference. And you have to remember too, these are people who thought that was going to go over either really well or insult us and we wouldn't do anything about it, and it didn't work for them.
Yeah, good point. And you can obviously see it's that they're removing, because you can share, and other people they're sharing videos of the Olympics. So they're sharing videos of the swims, the gymnastics, and they're not getting hit with the copyright infringement. They're free to share it. People are tweeting it out and nobody cares about it. So it's obvious not that they care about you copywriting their material. It's only this one specific scene that they don't want out there and they want to erase it. Even though the girl, we would call her like the white Lizzo, who was in the center of the table there, she on her Instagram, she was proudly putting it up there, the New Gay Testament. So it wasn't like she was hiding the fact that they were mocking Christianity in the Last Supper.
Well, they tried to claim it was Dionysus was who they were honoring or something, which, I mean, maybe pick a deity that people actually knows who it is, know who it is if you want to be believable. But yeah, that's what they went with for some reason.
And it just sucks because the Olympics is one of those things that's supposed to bring the entire world together here. Yeah. It's a good moment. You're going to watch it with your kids. And then we had to go through this. Like, you can never just sit back and relax and enjoy something. They got to poison it with this stuff. And it's like, yeah, people have got to be, not just Americans, but around the world. People just got to be so sick and tired of this stuff being jammed down their throats already.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's spreading, but we're one of the only countries that really does that. But it's because the left has, at least in our country, realized the media is sort of sets a default belief. Like I think it was Aaron McIntyre pointed this out, that TV sort of will create a sense of what views are acceptable and what are not. And I don't mean like news. I mean, to give one example, in South Park, there's a famous episode about illegal immigrants, and all these rednecks are going, they took our jobs, and that sort of has become a meme. But you're associating two views. So you're associating caring about illegal immigration with being a redneck who's mockable. And every TV show does this to some extent with a certain belief system. If there is an anti-abortion person, are they this, Lila Rose type, really well-read, soft-spoken, devout person who lives by a certain moral code? Or is it some backwards hypocrite who beats his kid while reciting Bible verses? Well, we all know who they're going to pick for that. So that is one of their strengths in the media. And I can't remember why I was watching this on YouTube. I'll pretty much click anything, but it was like Europeans sharing culture shock in America. And one of the common things was like, football is political. We don't really get that. It's like, why are these random things that are hobbies political? So it would be nice to do away with that.
Yeah, I miss those days where you didn't have to get it involved in sports, and it's poisoned so much of it. Obviously, Hollywood, you can't watch a single movie that ain't woke anymore, where the father isn't some kind of loser and the woman is the hero, and it's like it's always the same motto in all these movies. But and talking about, like you say, rednecks or say hillbillies, right? J.D. Vance with the hillbilly elegy, he's the VP now, and Kamala Harris called him weird. Chuck Schumer's same thing. So this thing I think kind of backfired on them because they're calling him weird. Meanwhile, they're posing in the White House with these dudes wearing beards and dresses. And it's like, so everyone was kind of hashtagging it. And, hey, J.D. Vance is weird, and posting these images of Kamala with these lunatics that she's been around. So I think the whole thing kind of backfired on him.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of launched her campaign on, was it RuPaul's Drag Race? And you can see the people she was surrounded with. I mean, I know those points have been made a million times before, but these people can't define what woman is. So, I don't know. It's just a memo must have went out, though, because every liberal influencer on Twitter is using the word weird or strange and all their things attacking them. So I don't know. It's odd. And someone pointed out, it's the reason they're attacking JD Vance for being weird and falsely claiming that he tried to sleep with his couch is because they can't find a hysterical woman to falsely accuse him of sexual assault. So
you figure there'd be at least 20 coming out of the woodwork to claim that. That's what you kind of thought. What is your take on JD Vance? Because I know some people had the mixed reviews about Trump's pick with JD Vance. What was your take on it? How does he help the campaign?
Well, he is, I think, one of the more populist types, and his voting record is pretty much 100% in line with the Trump agenda. The only thing that will hurt him or could hurt Trump is, I think it was back in 2016, he made an anti-Trump comment where he referred to him as like a sexual abuser or offender, one of those types of terms. So, I do think the Harris campaign will make some argument of something along the lines of Trump's own VP thinks this about Trump. But people change their minds, and I'm sure he has explained it. I haven't seen it, but
he has. Yeah, he's made the explanation of like that he was influenced by the mainstream media talking points about Trump, and he was, younger in his early 30s, like whatever he was, early 30s, didn't have kids, wasn't married yet. So he's using that to say now he's seen the light. You know what I mean? He's had the epiphany. So I do agree, though. I think, you'd have to be stupid if you were Harris's campaign and not highlight on that. Say, hey, don't take our word for it. Listen to Trump's own VP. That gives them, I think, a golden nugget there. So I think that does give them a little bit of fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, though, for Kamala Harris, I think she should pick Mike Pence as her VP as a joke.
Yeah, or like Nikki Haley or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, I think they were talking about Josh Shapiro as a VP pick on CNN, and they really casually were like, yeah, it's not going to work because he's Jewish. And I'm like, can you imagine on Fox if we were talking about running, like, I don't know, Ben Carson, and some guys like, well, he's black, so no one's going to vote for him. Like, it's the most damning thing they could have admitted about their own party, and it just was casually said without a second thought at all.
Well, that makes no sense either, because she is getting there. I have heard the same thing about him being Jewish, and because they're so pro-Hamas, so many people that are on their side, especially that crazy, whatever you call them, the crew that's in the Democrat Party there. The squad. But now Kamala's own husband is Jewish. So that's the part that's kind of confusing about that. Like, no, don't pick a VP that's Jewish, but it's okay that her husband is Jewish. So I don't know how that all jives together.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think the number of Muslims who abstained in Michigan during the primaries was greater than Biden's margin of victory in Michigan. So they're definitely, they have to play both sides, but it is going to be zero sum. I mean, the only thing they have in common with them is, or in their favor, is like 90% of Muslims vote Democrat. I think 80+% of Jews do. So it's more about retaining the vote than expanding it, which I guess is possible, but we'll see. I mean, I'm just really hoping they lose the Muslim vote because that is going to cost them in Michigan.
Did you see the video with the white women for Harris on the Zoom call? They had now they're doing the white men for Harris on a Zoom call, and the big names are going to be like Pete Buttigieg and David Hogg, like the two big names that are going to have. But it's like they're doing these white, and it's so cringe to watch. And it's like here's these white liberal women who don't live in the neighborhoods where the illegal immigrants are. Right. They don't mention that women are getting raped and murdered by illegal immigrants. It's all like it's the same thing we constantly hear from them about the virtue signaling and wanting to admit their white privilege and try to bow down and say, oh, we love black people. And it's so hard to watch, but yet they're going with that type of messaging.
Yeah, I mean, if the Republicans in any way did something that was just for white men or women, I don't think we'd ever hear the end of it, but I guess they're allowed to do white identity I guess they're allowed to do any identity politics. I thought the white version was the only kind that was off limits. But yeah, I saw that Zoom call. It was weird how liberals will often talk about people of color like they're zoo animals. Like it's like this exotic thing. And then she was talking about how something like one of the most important things when listening to black women talk is you never correct them. And I'm like, well, what if you're wrong, you get corrected? Like, why do you get a shield of immunity from being wrong? It was a bizarre thing. And it's, I don't know. It's just, there's this ironic thing that liberals do where they will speak as if not only is white supremacy true, but they're the ones perpetrating it. Like just the way they talk about certain groups and how they can't do anything on their own and they need our help and X, Y, and Z. It's an odd thing to see.
And when you see them talk to black people, they talk to them like they're toddlers, like they're 2-year-olds. They're trying to like talk slowly and trying to like it's really awkward to watch, and it's surprising that that they continue to do it that way.
Oh no, I'm not kidding. There's actually studies on that where liberals actually do dumb down their vocabulary when they speak to black people, while Republicans talk exactly the same. So it goes to show you where the soft bigotry of low expectations is.
Yeah, you even had the governor of New York there and say, "Well, black people don't know the kids don't know what a computer is. They never heard that word before," and everyone just kind of looks over that and doesn't. If Trump or some prominent Republican had said that, we'd still be seeing that clip being played today. Kamala Harris would sure be playing it.
Oh, do you remember Hillary Clinton I can't remember who she was waiting for, but it was during her 2016 campaign, and they were obviously non-white, and she's like, yeah, they're on CPT, which, stands for colored people time. So she got away with that. I mean, you can really get away with you can get away with driving off a bridge and killing a woman if you're a Democrat. So pretty much anything.
It's so unauthentic too. Like that one call she did with whoever that rapper was. She's like, "Yeah, girl, I'm out here on these streets," and it's like it's so hard to watch, man. And then the call with the Obamas, obviously all faked up, and it's like it's a production. Everything's a production.
Her phone was on speaker, and she's holding it next to her ear. Like, what?
Yeah, who does that?
Apparently her, which is very weird, by the way.
Well, let me ask you this, Matt. Because I would think the smart, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think the smart play for the Democrats would be to get more momentum for Kamala would be to have Joe Biden resign, let her become the president of the United States, have all these ceremonies, inauguration. It gives them a chance to really fawn over her some more. I mean, it would be really great from their perspective of campaigning. But again, Biden would have to resign and go out, in a disgrace. So I don't know how they balance that. But do you see them doing something like that between now and November?
Probably not, but that actually sounds like a very good idea for them. Because you kind of put it in people's minds that she's sort of already the president, and if it's only a few months, you just kind of feel like it's a pre-presidency. So no, hopefully they don't see this clip.
Yeah, because I just think, it makes more sense for them. They could, because they would really milk. You see how they're milking it right now, making her out to be something that she's not. They would really go all in. Maybe that's the October surprise, like this year. Maybe that's what happens. They'd have to make a deal with Biden, or maybe the guy. Who knows? It's not like far fetched to think Biden won't make it till November either. So anything could happen. But I could see that being some kind of October surprise.
Yeah, it's just so fake that there was this consensus that even if you liked Biden, that Kamala Harris was just this ditzy idiot who didn't know anything and was really cringe. And I mean, she had the lowest approval rating of any VP in history, meaning it was lower than Cheney's after he shot a guy. So that's what we're dealing with. And to see it overnight just go from what's they're calling it? She's brat. Like, I already hate the dialogue and the words these people use. I've seen grown men type into their keyboard, Kamala is brat, and then hit send. I don't know how that's possible, but this is what we're dealing with. It's going to be insufferable for the next 3 months, truly.
It is. And how do you see it playing up? Kamala versus Trump here. What is Trump's play? Because, they came, look how they went at using that vernacular. They hammered me. I know Trump going to have to stay away from that type of stuff, but how does this match up? What is Trump's strong points here to attack her?
Well, you just phrased it in, I think you'd have to just phrase it in the terms of she got ahead unfairly. Like, you don't have to mention the sex. It's just kind of implied. So I guess that way. And I don't know. I don't think Americans like to see, I don't know, people sort of cheat to get their way ahead. And the only thing that I'm not sure how to play it, because the whole narrative of like she threw people in jail. Well, I'm fine with people being tough on crime. You just have to focus on like, the American public isn't sympathetic to marijuana offenses. People facing consequences for marijuana offenses, so they could play up that angle. Because it does seem like she's going to do this angle of he's a criminal, I'm a prosecutor, and I'm going to prosecute another one through the election. Some dumb line like that. But when it comes to her odds of winning, I was looking at electionbettingodds.com, which it gives you like the implied probability from the bookies, which I don't think you can actually bet in this country. But
no, not legally, yeah.
Not legally, yeah. And then Trump was at like an 80% chance of winning right before Biden dropped out, and he's at like 60 or so percent now. So it was projected he would get 336 electoral votes against Biden. I think it's like 306 now, because I think Michigan flipped, and then what else? And then Pennsylvania might have flipped since she declared. And again, I mean, if you look at election day 2016, Hillary had an 80% chance of winning. So, you kind of take it, with a grain of salt. But I know historically, I saw a study that the bookies are usually more accurate in the polls by some extent. I think the reason they gave is because insider trading is actually legal in those markets. So you have more information there. But I don't know, I'm still obviously holding out on Trump and hoping it's a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I trust the bookmakers' prediction far more than I do the pollsters' predictions. I mean, they seem to be more accurate. And obviously, you're smashing it over there with the Bongino report. What stories are you working on this week? What's the highlights that's coming up?
Let me see. Hold on. Let me bring up my computer.
Give us the inside skinny.
All right, what are we covering now? I just updated this like 20 minutes ago. I somehow don't know. We have. Of course, it's not loading the second I answer.
I hope Bongino becomes the FBI Secret Service director. That'd be great.
I could be press secretary or something. That would be epic. Yeah. All right. So it loaded. All right. So there's one. Actually, our top story. There's, I guess, a lot of Democrats are privately worrying about Kamala's ability to beat Trump. And I know there was a report that Obama was, but he ended up endorsing her. So I'm not sure if it's. He doesn't think she'll win, but thinks she's the best bet or something along those lines. We had a new update on leaked text between some of the Secret Service counter snipers saying they knew about the attempted assassin for 90 minutes. I don't know, actually, if you saw, Trump had a rally last night where he was talking about it, and he's like, when we had those wonderful, snipers take him out, I wish it happened a bit sooner, but
right, yeah.
We have Maduro claiming he won his election, which on some Venezuelan state media account, they posted photos of like their, I don't know, vote counters or whatever team's in charge of that. And they had the analytics in the background, and it showed the opposition getting 75% of the vote. So they basically admitted that it's all rigged in that photo, but by accident.
Yeah, that Venezuela thing is going to be on fire. I know he called out Javier Milei down in Argentina. Basically told him he couldn't fight him, fist fight him. He would beat his ass. I don't know I don't know if that was true or if that was, I was like, because I can't understand, he wasn't in English, but I was like, that's what they said. But it's obviously there's corruption down there, and we've seen it happen in our own country, so we know it exists. And that was wild, man. And that's why they always say you could vote your way into socialism, but you got to shoot your way out of it. And it seems like, you give up your guns, and this is what happens.
Yeah, I love too. They never make it believable. It's like 90% of the vote or something. Someone did an experiment in Russia where I think Putin is at as close to 100% as you can get, where they just posted a photo of Putin in a random public elevator, and every single person who walked in was like, "Why the hell is this guy here?" Or like, we're talking bad about him, not knowing they were on video. And I think the video maker very stupidly didn't blur their faces, but it goes to show that it's a more accurate opinion poll, and they're all coincidentally the most popular people ever.
Well, listen, I got the link to the Bongino report down there in the description below. Love the work that you do. Everybody else does too. So keep up the good work. We're going to have a lot going on between now and November. Hopefully I'll have you back on again before then.
Yes,
Matt Palumbo, thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time today on the Alec Lace Show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, grateful to have Matt Palumbo join me on the podcast here. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Don't forget, if you're watching the broadcast on Rumble, like the video, share it in your network, and don't forget to leave a comment down below if you are enjoying it or if you're hating it. Let me know down below. You guys haven't been shy about that. I can tell you that right now. Matt Palumbo, awesome. Always brings some great wisdom. There's a reason why Dan Bongino has him on the Dan Bongino report. He only deals with the best over there, and Matt Palumbo certainly one of those guys. So look forward to having him back on. Hopefully I'll see him back on Fox again. I don't know. We'll see. But one of the things we were talking about there, obviously that was the thing trending. It happened Thursday night, so it was right after my broadcast on Thursday, and it's kind of died down now, unfortunately, which it shouldn't. We should never forget about it, is this Olympic opening ceremony. Talked about it a little bit there with Matt, but it's like, this thing, what they did was so disgraceful. And it never gets the backlash that it should. And here's the notification I got on Twitter. I got my account locked, and this is what it says. What happened? Your account has been locked because X received a complaint. Digital Millennium Copyright Act notice for content posted to your X account, right? This is what I was talking about with Matt. So everybody got these that was posting clips of the Olympic satanic opening ceremony because they did everything they could to scrub it from the internet. Now, they didn't care if you shared any of the other clips from the opening ceremony. You could have shared anything you wanted to. Nobody got hit with a copyright infringement, okay? You only got hit if you shared the satanic one of mocking the Last Supper, because they know they screwed up. They had sponsors that pulled out, and it was condemned by everybody. You had people boycotting the Olympics because of this, and which sucks because it's like, the Olympics is supposed to bring everybody together, and it's fun to watch some of the gymnastics, some of the swimming. Now they have the skateboarding. I know people love the basketball. So it's like, why do you have to involve this filth into it and press this stupid agenda and shove it down our throats, man? Everybody is sick and tired about it. And what I said there, I was talking to Matt, they admitted the white Lizzo, the girl called Barbara Butch, and again, I call her the white Lizzo, and it's okay to do that because she is a self-described fat Jewish queer lesbian. That's how she describes herself. So don't get bent out of shape because I call her the white Lizzo. That's just another way of saying it. But she admits it. Here's her Instagram account where she calls it the New Gay Testament, right? And it was a mockery. The whole thing was a mockery of the Christian faith. And as a Catholic, it sucks to see that and to know that there's going to be very little pushback whatsoever. And knowing that if they did this to somebody from Islam, Paris would have been off the map tomorrow. And you don't see them mocking the Jewish faith. You see them mocking the Christian faith. So it was just, it sucks that it had to be that way. But even the Olympics, they censored themselves. And here's their YouTube channel. They censored themselves. They took it off. So people are like, oh, it's because you shared a copyrighted material. You realize how many copyrighted videos are shared on X every day? If you started copyright claiming videos on X, there'd be no videos to look at. Everything is copyrighted on there. Everything everybody shares isn't their own. So... and again, notice they didn't put in the copyright claim if you shared the opening swim meet. They didn't copyright that. You could share it all you want. They could care less. If you shared that, they're going to hit you with the copyright breach. And they even took it off of their own YouTube because they're embarrassed for themselves. They know they screwed up. And Donald Trump had an interview with Laura Ingraham on Fox Business. He was asked about it. Here's what he had to say.
I thought that the opening ceremony was a disgrace, actually. I thought it was a disgrace.
The mocking of the Last Supper.
I thought it was
Catholics and Christians across the globe are outraged.
I mean, they can do certain things. I thought it was terrible.
Can you say at the next Olympics, if you're present, you'll have enough influence on the organizers that we won't be, insulting Christians?
We won't be having a Last Supper as portrayed the way they portrayed it the other night.
And it was disgraceful, and we have to pray that Donald Trump will be there for the next Olympics, which is going to be out there in California in 2028. And how awesome would that be to have Donald Trump at the Olympics? Here he was as a torchbearer there for the Olympics. It would be monumental. It'd be epic to have Donald Trump at the Olympic Games as President of the United States. I mean, I hope we get to see it. I hope they don't burn this country to the ground before now and then because, and as I said to Matt, the fear is for me, and I would imagine the biggest October surprise that we could get this year would be Joe Biden stepping down and resigning. And then you would see the media and the left milk this for every single second it's worth. They would put on the biggest Hollywood production for Kamala Harris's inauguration. It would be huge. You'd have Hollywood guests. You'd probably have, what's her name, the Taylor Swift singing something, performing. They would make this the biggest event in presidential inauguration history just to get all of the fanfare and to hype up Kamala Harris. And it would be the smartest play they could make, and it would work. I think they would gain a lot of momentum by doing it. What do they have to gain by keeping Sleepy Joe, who can't speak, in office, other than maybe they made a deal with him? I don't know. But for the better fit of their cause, if he stepped down and they inaugurated Kamala as the first female president, first woman of color, first whatever she is, Indian and Jamaican, she'd be the first Indian Jamaican president that we ever had, and first woman. So. It would be interesting to see if they made that play. As Matt said, hopefully they don't see that clip, but I got to imagine this is right in their wheelhouse when they're discussing their plans, their campaign strategies and stuff like that. They got to be saying, boy, this is a home run sitting right here on the table. I mean, this is huge if we could get to that point. And I wouldn't doubt if we see it. And again, Kamala Harris, one of the most unlikely, unelectable people you could possibly have in politics, but she's going to be the default nominee. Installed. Not selected. Selected, not elected, right? And that's the way it is. The people that love democracy, they install the nominee. You didn't get a chance to pick in the name of saving democracy. All right, so those are really the stories that I had. I'm working on a guest for Thursday. I will let you guys know on X. Follow me over there at Alec Lace. To find out the upcoming guest announcements. Again, I'm grateful to Matt Palumbo for giving me a few minutes of his time. Let me know what you thought about our interview. Hit me with a comment down below. Like the channel, follow the channel, share the channel. That's really all I could ask from you guys. And again, thank you for so much of your support. And that video that did go viral, and as Matt said, pissed off all the right people. So much support came through from having that video out there. So many wonderful people, so many great comments showing support for me because they saw some of the vicious attacks from on my family and on my personal character and everything else like that. But I'm grateful because so many people came to my defense. So many people agreed with what I said. And so it was great to kind of see that. And I'm grateful to a lot of you viewers out there, many of you who had my back as well. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for continuing to support the podcast, continuing to support my work here, and I'm grateful to have you. And tune back in on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live right here on Rumble. I'll be back with a fresh episode. Hopefully, I may have a guest, I may not. May just hit you with the story. So we'll see what I can do. I'm working on a couple right now. I know Congress now starts their vacation, so maybe tough to grab a few of them guys, but we'll see what I can do, all right? And again, follow me on X for upcoming guest announcements. And I do have the Navy SEAL swim in less than 2 weeks here now, too. So if you're interested, I still have my campaign. I'm trying to raise money for the Navy SEAL Foundation. If you're interested, check the description, click the link. Anything you could put in the kitty helps out. All right, so God bless you parents out there. God bless you listeners. God bless our police, our first responders. God bless our military, our veterans. God bless America. And I will catch you guys right back here Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Rumble. Take care.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.